Good evening and welcome again to Public Perspective. I'm your host, Kevin McDermott. And tonight we'll be returning to one of my favorite subjects, the arts. In this case, the film arts. Our guest tonight is Sadia Uqaili, who is the founder of Explore Their Stories, right?
That's correct.
An organization that is dedicated to finding, understanding, and making documentaries about people who really have stories to tell, correct?
That is correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's start with Explore Their Stories in the group. What prompted you to create this group?
Thank you so much, first of all, Kevin, for having me here.
Oh, my pleasure.
And as we were just talking about life itself, you know, it brings us to places. It's not in a split of a second that we decide to form these groups or to form these organizations, or I would say movements. It takes a lifetime for us to become something and come to a place where we are ready to formulate these, I would say, very daring and ambitious projects. For myself, I'm an economist, I'm an artist, I'm also an educator, and very much, I guess, an activist. So for me, all that I've done up till now, especially working with, I would say, marginalized communities and communities at risk and youth, what I did find was that learning is no longer limited between 2 covers of a book.
Or a particular period in time. It's not as though you go to school and then you're through learning.
Exactly. And it's unfortunate that in the system of today, learning is mostly focused on a few pieces of our brain, which is either numericals or language or the idea of, I would say, selective learning.
So what's being neglected in our
So
current
what
learning
is being
environment?
neglected is a holistic learning pattern, which is the arts and the creative side of our mind, which we have almost given up, or it's the sidebar of our learning
Well, it
process.
doesn't lead to high-paying jobs the way the STEM, the science, technology, engineering, and math. That curriculum tends to feed more directly into good-paying jobs, and so you see a lot of emphasis there. But the arts, the cliche of the starving artist is still with us, and there's lots of truth based in there as well.
That is true. And for everything, it's the dollar amount which adds value to what's valuable, right? If artists were paid the way they should be, or they were back in the day in old Greek and Roman culture of excellence, then we wouldn't be where we are right now.
In what respect? We wouldn't be here economically, politically,
well,
socially?
Education-wise, so we've become very compartmentalized of putting value to what's valuable. And I truly believe that we really need to restructure our learning models. Film being the most powerful media. With a press of a button, we can sink into people's minds and their hearts. And the messaging is, there's a multiplier of whatever message that we want to produce and want people to learn from. It's the impact of film is unquestionable.
Well, it's one of the most popular forms of media,
That is
right? And but the kinds of films that you're interested in making are not blockbuster science fiction extravaganzas. These are, or whatever that happens to be the big selling type of film. These are really personal stories, right? And so, what attracts you to that personal story side?
Well, the blockbuster films are fun too, and I also would like to buy a $12 ticket and go see them. But what happens is, again, that concept of the number of eyeballs equals to the number of dollars equals to what's being produced.
Mhm.
Now, what's being left out is stories of real lives, documentaries. We are following the truth. We are following those stories that will never make it to the mainstream media. We want to discover stories of either individuals or communities, that voices that will never be heard, the voices of excellence, of perseverance, of integrity. It's not blood, gore, hatred, fast movement which sells, right?
Yes.
But this is what I've chosen to do, because this is going to be neglected. And in the end, we are really heading into compartmentalizing ourselves to a point where the walls keep going higher and higher.
The
You know,
walls
it's the
dividing
walls
us,
dividing us.
Mhm.
So it's the them and us.
There's a lot of that nowadays.
Right?
Yeah.
What we want to do is tell these stories through our films, and then when we tell this story, people will themselves realize, it'll sink into their being, and the idea of inspiring people to get educated rather than beating it on their heads. You inspire individuals and communities to want to know more. And when they want to know more, that is where learning happens. So
Right.
the them becomes us. The more we learn, you know how, as human beings, anything that's strange for us becomes a threat.
Mhm.
Anything that we are told about something, it's, for example, if we are in a dark room, we walk into a very dark room, we are blindfolded, you don't know where what is. And somebody says there's such and such thing, a lion hiding here. We are going to be very fearful and we'll become defensive.
Mhm.
When we are defensive, we shut ourselves down. We are not learning anymore. But you open the light of knowledge, the light of understanding, of the light of empathy and wanting to know more. And there's nothing hidden. Our defenses go down. We become, the them becomes us. That is the idea behind Explore Their Stories.
So, as you have built this organization to try
Yes.
to reveal these truths,
Yes.
how do you come to select the subjects that you're going to study? And I know you have one in production now. So,
Yes, we do.
you can tell us about that.
I can, yeah, so definitely. Currently we are, how do we select the stories is, they just come to our table, you know. Basically, our criterion is, what is the key to excellence? And how have these individuals really made a difference and made an impact on their community or on a global community? Through their practice, through their work, through their philanthropy, through their research. Now, currently what we are producing is a story on the life and work of Bapsi Sidhwa. She is a writer from an old historic city of Lahore.
I've been there, by the way.
You've been to Lahore?
I've been to Lahore, yes.
Oh, fantastic. I did not know that.
Well, there you go. That's why we have these shows, so we can trade information like
That's
this.
lovely.
Yes.
So, why did I choose Bapsi? Oh, well, for many reasons. This woman from South Asia, who began writing at that time in English, opened South Asia to the rest of the world. So that's iconic in itself.
Now, you said in English. Now, English is a language that's been spoken there since the British invaded, you know, many, many years ago.
Yeah.
So is this unusual that she wrote in English?
At that time, it is unusual that she wrote in English from someone from a South Asian background. She not only wrote in English, but she wrote about the break of a nation and the re-emergence of two nations. Okay, and
How
then
India split. Right?
India split into Pakistan and India.
Right.
So this Lahori, die-hard Lahori, which was from India became a diehard Lahori, a Pakistani diehard Lahori. Then she gets married at 17 or 18 years of age and leaves her hometown and goes into this cosmopolitan Bombay and becomes Indian. Loses her heritage as a Pakistani, and she's Indian.
So she starts as Indian, becomes Pakistani after the split, and goes back to being Indian.
Becomes Indian again, and then later comes back to Lahore and settles back in Lahore. Is from Pakistan, and that's where she starts writing much later in life as a young mother. And her stories are, you know, she's also a minority, a Zoroastrian. I don't know if you're familiar with.
Well, I know of the Zoroastrians. We studied them, in fact, when I was in high school. So,
fantastic. So the first monotheistic religion, which are, I mean, I think there are about 120,000 left. Why was I interested in this story and in the Zoroastrian community? Because since my childhood, I have seen nothing but excellence attached to this community. And I am all about finding that key of how can we learn.
And how can we do it by finding examples of excellence
Right.
and seeing how they've accomplished this.
Exactly. Right? So through Bapsi's life, through her narrative, we are finding a lot about a community whose DNA, I believe it was to stay under the radar. Because they were ousted from Persia. I don't know if you know about the story, but they landed in Gujarat and Bombay. And
this is the Zoroastrian community as a whole?
As a whole. They went probably all over the world, but this story about landing in Gujarat and the Raja of Gujarat sending a bowl of milk to their priest, high priest, that was symbolic of the fact that, you know, drink the milk and move off. We don't want you here. And what the leadership of the Zoroastrian leadership did was they added a spoonful of sugar in that bowl of milk and sent it back to the Raja. And that meant we will assimilate and become a part of the community.
And the Raja accepted that gift?
And they accepted the gift, and they were allowed to deport, and they were allowed to come on board and become assimilated in India. So I feel in my research that I've been working with Bapsi now since 2016 is the DNA, cultural DNA, is to remain under the radar too, but their work and their philanthropy, and they give without giving names. Bapsi's mom was one of the biggest philanthropists of Lahore. They still are, I mean, wherever they go. But it's also her creativity that I'm looking at.
Well, let's use that as a segue. Now, we have a clip of the trailer from the film that you're making, right? And we'll ask our crew to get that up in just a minute. Tell us about, you've got about 60 seconds before we roll this, so tell us what we're about to see in this trailer.
Well, you're about to see in this trailer an idea of the different worlds that we want our audiences to feel and get to know. We want to take people to places and feel and learn about individuals and communities they will never be able to go to. They will never be able to see. And you will see that in this trailer.
All right, so let's see if we've got the trailer lined up yet.
Yeah.
But while they're getting this rolling, I think it's intriguing that we talk about the fact that that these are areas where people may never get to. So, all right, let's see if we can roll that now.
Geographies, cultures.
People are gifted in different ways. Some become marathon runners, Some become great actors. I couldn't act for the life of me. I tried once, but they said you're hopeless at it. But I was somehow gifted as a writer. Your whole being tells you what your passion is.
Bapsi, she's so great.
Bapsi Sidhwa is American.
Books like The Crow Eaters and American Brat just make you laugh out loud. Cracking India can break your heart. Just brilliant. I mean, she told it from the point of view of a young Parsi girl. It's, about the partition of India, which was a terrible moment.
It was the silences in my life that made me want to write. I was a very good listener. Because I didn't talk, I listened a lot. Now I've become a non-stop talker. My polio did not make me weak at any point. Well, I used to climb mountains. We had a house in Nathia Gully, and out there I used to go mountain hiking.
Her writing has always been a part of my life growing up, and eventually I have crept up into some of her stories.
When I started writing, I couldn't stay away from my story. Just get down to it. Write rubbish. If you want to fight with somebody, write that down and use swear words. Do what you want, but release it. I've had a very full life, and as long as I'm alive, I'll be writing.
So you're right, she seems like quite a character. Now, is she, I don't recognize her name as someone who's in the cultural consciousness in the U.S. Is that your experience here as well, that she's not well known in this country?
Yes, in general, yes, and that is why we are making these films. Bapsi is published by Milkweed Editions, which is a very celebrated, prestigious publisher here. She's also been published by Jonathan Cape, was publishing Bapsi back in time, where later they went on to publish J.K. Rowling's and Margaret Atwood, and discovered Frida Kahlo as well. So Bapsi's first book published in the UK, in the West, was through Jonathan Cape. She's being republished now by Daunt Books in UK. She's being published, all of her books are translated in Italian and published by Neri Pozza. Actes du Sud France has been publishing Bapsi, and she's been published in Pakistan, and I think 23 plus years in India by Penguin Random House. And Jonathan Cape was then taken over by Penguin Random House. So Bapsi is more known for two of her books, which were taken over, which were used by Deepa Mehta, the brilliant Indian-Canadian producer, director. So David Hamilton and Deepa Mehta produced Earth 1947, which is based on Bapsi's Cracking India. It's a beautiful book. And then Water was produced by Deepa, which Bapsi then wrote a book on. So even in the Indian community, she is known more for the films, because as I said, film is power, and it's an immediate form of influencing lives and hearts and brains.
But I don't think she hasn't been well known or well understood in the United States.
Not yet, but
Not yet,
but once we make the film,
then that may change.
yes, yes, her books are well known in the literary circles. Just now, last week, I just came back from Houston filming Bapsi, and a very key element of her life, which is all of her work has been now acquired by Rice University in their archives. And this is, I think, a dream come true for a writer, that is where she will be, her work will be for the world to access.
And so she'll be at Rice and sort of enshrined in the archives, right, at Rice University.
That is correct, yeah.
Now, we also have some photos that I want to see if we can bring up, because this is the photos that revolve around your movie about Bapsi, which will, the name of the film is? Bapsi,
The Silences of My
The
Life.
Silences of My
Yeah.
Life.
This is a working title, and I don't know in how we, you know, I hope we can stick to it. Let's see how we progress.
Yeah, you know, there's a lot that goes into a title in marketing a movie as well, so.
Yeah.
we have to see.
So the film will be a cinematic retelling of her life story and a dramatization of few pieces of her books. It requires a budget. The dramatization
Yes.
piece requires a budget. But you know, we've done really good up till now. We've done such great progress since we met last time.
Yes, it's been
Kevin.
about a year, right?
We are in production right now. And this is a story, it's a global story. It's a story of so many places. I just came, November I was in UK, traveled all the way up in a two-train car to Halesworth, Suffolk, to interview Liz Calder, who was Bapsi's first editor at Jonathan Cape. She's now running the largest literary arts festival in Brazil.
From the UK?
Yeah, she goes over to, it's called the Flip Festival. Jaipur Literary Arts Festival, another huge, big lit fest in India, is now honoring Bapsi in September in Houston. So to be very honest to you, this is what documentaries are. We take free fall or free flight, I
Yes,
call it free flight.
yes. Might feel like falling sometimes, right?
Yeah.
In the tough times.
And to be honest with you, we have to take that jump, and we can't worry about where we will land.
I believe that all these great endeavors come with a necessary leap of faith to begin with.
Yes.
If it were easy, anyone would do it.
Yes.
But it's not, and the
No.
things that are hardest to do are usually the most worthwhile.
Yes.
And as an old boss of mine once said, if there's no risk of failure, there's no satisfaction in success. And so I
Yeah.
think I get the sense that's true here as well, right?
Thank you. I truly believe, as I said before, when we know, we become, our defenses are down. And that's the only way we begin to learn. You know, we have to start crawling again to learn how to walk. And this is how these stories of writers, of physicians, of doll makers, of pelican hunters, of followers of faith, of journeys, we truly want to share these stories that will never see the light of the day otherwise.
Well, let's see if we can bring up some of those photos. There's a
Yes.
few that we want to show here. So tell us what we're looking at here.
This is Bapsi Sidhwa in her favorite place in her house.
And she lives in Houston now,
She
right?
is. She's a Houstonian since the 80s. And she's not just a Houstonian, she's someone who got the key to Houston from the mayor of Houston.
That's pretty impressive.
She's
yeah.
been internationally acclaimed. She's gotten this, you know, young girl who could not even go to school because of illness, had a lonely childhood, is now, has influenced, came to the States. It's a beautiful story of migration and of reinvention.
So let's see what.
So
we've
this
got
is
a couple
Bapsi at
more
her
here.
place last year.
And this is
Yeah,
your
this is our
production
team.
making the movie.
We could have, there's no way we could have afforded all these visionaries and film experts unless and until they believed in our mission.
And I know there's quite each one of these people, I know it's hard to read on the screen here, but they all, each has a pretty impressive resume, right? They're all
Yes.
highly skilled professionals.
Yes, they are highly skilled professionals. We could not have come this far without them. We've been very creative. I mean, myself being an artist, we find solutions. You see, that's what I was talking about. Creativity is helpful in finding solutions in any field, whether it's IT or filmmaking or whatever else. So we have teams of crew all over the world.
Well, let's see what we've got. Another one up here that you can see the next photo.
Yeah, this is the infamous Liz Calder in
you just visited,
Halesworth,
right?
Suffolk, who published. This is she's holding Bapsi's Crow Eaters.
Was this her first book?
This was her second book,
Second book.
but this is the book which I don't want to give the whole story away, but created a lot of turmoil in the ancient city of Lahore when it was first published.
It was controversial.
It was controversial to the Zoroastrian community because Bapsi, it's humorous, and Bapsi kind of put her own community out there to the rest of the world, which had never happened before.
Because they wanted to fly under the radar. Well, we have one more here that shows your progress on the film, right?
Yeah, if
So-
the background is blue, we
Yes,
can.
when the background is blue, you
When
can
the
read,
background is blue,
but since it's not,
you
we'll
can
just have to
see
tell
that.
people that you're about halfway through, right? If you
Yes,
just
we are now in
imagine.
production. So film is, if for those who don't know,
Mhm.
it's pre-production and development, where we are doing all the research and working towards.
And that's been years in this case. of
So yeah,
preparation, right?
we've been working since 2016.
Yeah.
We are on a roll because Bapsi, because of Bapsi's age and fragile health, we want
There's
to.
an urgency here as well.
There is. There is such an urgency. We really want Bapsi to be at the premiere, sitting with us, and this tigress of a woman leading the way. We are in production now. Every dollar that we've raised has gone straight to the film. We need to really continue to raise funds to be able to finish filming before the end of 2019, if we can manage that, and go into editing and color correction in 2020 for distribution in 2021. So that's where we are on our production timeline.
And I think that it's amazing to think in those kind of time scales that you have to plan these out for years. So from the start in 2016
Yes.
till 2021,
Yeah.
5 years of effort to try to
yes.
get this screened.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, it's somebody's life, and it's one life which has influenced thousands of lives through her readership, and it'll continue to do that. So I tell Bapsi that her writing has made her immortal.
Well, I think that's what we all want to do, is know that we have a lasting influence after we're gone.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
So, Sadia, believe it or not, we're already out of time.
Oh, okay.
I'm so glad it's taken a long time for us to arrange to have this interview, and I want to thank you for finally making it happen. So thank you so much for being here, and I wish you the best of luck on the film.
Thank you so much. I would, I really appreciate this opportunity to share our projects.
Well, we'll have you back
And-
when the film is ready. So
Thank you. We
Thank
are
you again.
online, and people can follow us and share us and support us. And thank you so much, Kevin.
And thank you for joining us once again on Public Perspective. I'm your host, Kevin McDermott. You can find us every Saturday night at 8 on Comcast Channel 19, or see us on the web at publicperspective.tv. So till next time, thank you and good night.